You're next!
Originality in the YouTube RPG Brigade. We all try to create and upload our most unique take on our beloved hobby and other passions. We feed off of each other and help one another see various aspects of our hobby. For example, Black Barnes and I created a beer and bullshit video over the holidays, which was plainly based on your idea. Still, what are your thoughts on Originality in the Brigade? And what are some of your favorite original RPG Brigade productions or knockoffs?
Well, let's see. Some of my favorites are definitely Dawn Forge Cast's The Forge. There's only 4 entries thus far, but yeah, the basic idea of that show, of that series of videos, is that he interviews other role players in the community, and after a live interview, a streamed interview through Google Plus, they will have an improvised short role-playing scene. And I just really like that, not only to actually see how other people role play, because of course it's one thing to talk about how you role play and how you like to role play and your views on role playing, and then actually to role play with you or watch or listen to you actually role play. And I think that's a trip. I really enjoyed that. And also, the people I'm subscribed to, the people whose videos I follow, I not only follow them because of the quality of their videos, I also follow them because I'm interested in the person making those videos. I usually like the person whose videos I like as well. So these sort of interview videos like this one, or any sort of videos like Q&A videos, or any sort of stuff where people are just chatting through Google Plus or Skype or whatnot, I just really enjoy those because I get to see this unformatted kind of presentation of that person, of how he kind of talks and what he likes to talk about off the cuff and all that sort of stuff. Because when I like the people, I like to know about the people. Of course, personal stuff can be kept to yourselves and all that sort of stuff. But, I like to know what sort of music somebody likes, what sort of movies somebody likes, what sort of other hobbies besides role-playing somebody has. And, the Forge is something I really enjoyed because of that reason. Others, I really enjoy Zig Copacetic's those what are they called? Shadowrun. Yeah, those Shadowrun videos. He's done 2 of those where he talks about the racism and the races of the Shadowrun world, and he doesn't talk about them in this sort of outside perspective of, okay, objectively looking at the situation, it's like this and this. No, he speaks about it from an angle of being of kind of looking at it like a person who has some sort of a stance in that. And in those, I think one of the videos was called like Shadowrun and Humans, and one of them was called Racism towards Elves, or Racist Against Elves, or something like that, where he basically talks about the relationship between the races from this kind of perspective of somebody who is a racist and a kind of humanity supremacist and that sort of person. So, he talks just like some douchebag racist in the real world, but he's talking about elves and orcs and all that sort of stuff. So, I really like that, and I really like the way that can kind of give you this sort of a way of, if you're gonna portray a character, or if you're gonna portray those people, you know, they're just regular people, but they have these fucked up views on the other races and that sort of stuff. So I really like that sort of thing. And another would be Tabletop Titan and 23 Penguins 33 Brady did a series together, which didn't you know, last very long, you know, too bad, but it was called the Odin's Day videos, where on every Wednesday they would do, both of them would do a video on the same subject and give their own insights on it. They didn't do it like live with both of them online and talking to each other. They just both did a video of it, and you know, how to reward a player, you know, players in game and all that sort of stuff, or how to handle treasures, or how to handle, you know, magic in let's say a technological setting, or something where, you know, it's not system specific, but it's something that you could easily, you know, take, you know, like at least like 70% of what they're saying and apply it to your settings. And I just really like them. I really like Tabletop Titans videos, and I really like Brady's videos, and I hope Brady makes a rapid recovery back to YouTube, and I really enjoyed their Odin's Day videos, and I really hope if Brady starts to do videos again, you know, if that they would rekindle that series and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's something I really enjoyed. Those all of those little things I've all enjoyed on other people's channels. But I also want to mention a knockoff. May sound kind of dismissive to some people, but you know, I really enjoy how much Same OG is getting praise for the walk and talk format that he uses in his videos. And you know, I like that format a lot, and it's no wonder, because I used to do that format videos myself before, when I lived in an apartment, before living in this apartment, when I had this kind of secluded spot in the woods where I could just walk around and know that nobody's going to disturb me. I'm shy enough that I don't want to go outside and talk in a foreign language, holding a video camera and running into people and that sort of stuff. So Same OG has more guts than I do. So yeah, I really you know, appreciate the fact that when he gets praise for the walk and talk format, he almost always, you know, references me, and you know, I didn't like create it. I also, you know, the very first video I did was a walk and talk video, because the reason I wanted to do videos in the first place was to do response videos for Conference Report and Bike Messenger 7, you know, Earl, and they did walk and talk videos, and I wanted to kind of, you know, throw my 2 cents in and try it myself. So, you know, I really like what Same OG is doing with that video format.
You, sir, are the Brigade's keeper of lore when it comes to Werewolf the Apocalypse. Your videos are some of the most extensive and informative displays of passionate knowledge on this particular classic World of Darkness title. With all of the information you have presented to those seeking to uncover the mysteries of the werewolf, I'm curious about the following. What is the most horrific moment you have ever inspired, played out, or created in a game of Werewolf the Apocalypse?
Interesting. The answer would be that actually it wasn't Werewolf the Apocalypse, but it was Werewolf the Wild West. Almost exactly the same game, just a different time period and all the, you know, setting canon differences that the different time period would bring with it. And I ran the game for Zig Kobasetic and Roger Rajal 1 through Skype, and in that game there was this extremely intense moment, in the sept that ruled the pack that the player characters were in. The sept was ruled by the sept's leader, who was a egomaniac, short-tempered asshole, Silverfang. And Silverfangs, already have like screws loose in their head, and they're so full of themselves, it's borderline, megalomania and egomania and that sort of stuff. And the character, the sept leader, was very much a character like that. The character was inspired by 3 different characters I knew already. They were inspired by he was inspired by the main character in Black Books, and Klaus Kinski, of course, and Mr. McMahon. And all those 3 characters kind of brought together into this one asshole. It was inevitable that he would become a annoyance to the players, and that was the kind of the thing. The sept leader had it out for Rohir's character Hjalmar, this big Geta Fenris Ahron. And there was really no specific reason. It was just, there are people who just look at a person and their first impression is just, I hate that fucker. That sort of thing. He just had it out for him, and every time they would come into contact, he would be really pissy towards him, even though he didn't really do anything. And especially if he would talk out of his place, if he would, the sept leader would ask the leader of their pack what the pack is about to do and that sort of thing, and if the leader kind of stuttered or something, or had trouble saying something coherently, and if Hjalmar would say oh, he means we're doing this and this, he would get outraged. He would get really pissy and pour all of the shit on Hjalmar. And there was a situation in the game. There had been many different things that had been kind of building up to this. Hjalmar, the character, had gotten this concoction bottle crashed on his head. This concoction that the worm servants had created as this kind of instant Fomori, magic juice, where basically the humans who would douse themselves with it would become almost like poisoned with the influence of the worm, and they would very easily become Fomoris in a very short time. And he got one of those bottles smashed on his face, and the players didn't know if the worm's influence would corrupt his mind or something like that. So they outright went to the sept leaders and said that this is what happened, and we have this fear that there might be some worm presence or worm influence in me. And that fueled the fire with the sept leader Edmund Crowler, the Silverfang, to despise Hjalmar even more, and to suspect him of being having this reason to hate him, oh yeah, he has become influenced by the worm and all this sort of stuff. And they made this experiment on him, this rite, and they found that he was clean of all worm influence. But later in the game, all sorts of stuff had happened. But later in the game, one of the whole septs, one of the werewolves in the whole community was murdered, and her body was found with her head crushed by a warhammer, a spirit weapon warhammer, this fetish, this clave that was covered in Geta Fenris insignias, and the warhammer is the Geta Fenris' kind of signature spirit weapon. And there was Hjalmar had this huge task ahead of him of trying to get a alibi, to prove to everybody that he is not the one who did this, that he has never seen this fucking warhammer ever in his life. But Edmund Crowler, the sept leader, was so hell-bent on proving his point that this Hjalmar guy is just a piece of shit, and once he had kind of blurted out, he had like this almost obligation to himself that he must kind of prove this, that he is in the under the influence of the worm and all that sort of stuff. So he tried, as he was kind of leading this investigation of who killed this werewolf, he was just pushing and provoking Hjalmar the best he could. He was pushing him, he was degrading him, he was humiliating him all he could, and Roger was spending willpower points like crazy to avoid falling into a frenzy, and that's what he tried to do. He tried to make him fall into a worm-right frenzy to let everyone see that what kind of a maniac this guy is, only to prove a point that he is justified to hate this motherfucker and that sort of thing. And the provoking escalated into such lengths that one night when Hjalmar returned to their kind of base of operations, this saloon that was run by a kinfolk, a barman, he returned there and the bar was completely empty except for the barman behind the counter. And he came there and he ordered a drink and saw that the barman was not in a very talkative mood and was in a very disturbed mood. And wouldn't you know it, from one of the rooms walks out Edmund Crawler, the sept leader, and he's fixing his shirt buttons and that sort of thing. And he comes to the table and he smacks a dollar coin on the counter and says to the barman, "Your whores suck." And he just looks at Hjalmar and just walks right out of the saloon. And Hjalmar looks at the barman and sees that the barman is very much like choked up, is very much like emotional and trying to suppress it, and can't get like words out of him when Hjalmar asks like is something the matter and that sort of thing. So he kind of reads into that his body language and realizes something really bad is going on. And the barman's daughter, another kinfolk, is a woman that Hjalmar has had the hots for the longest time, and who also is in love with Hjalmar, though never having confessed it or anything like that. So Hjalmar kind of realizes what might be going on. He stands up and walks to the door where Edmund Crawler, the sept leader, came from, and looks in through the crack and sees that on the bed there is that woman, the barman's daughter, left there clearly as a victim of fornication, this almost rape, and she was a virgin and she was a very virtuous and very like pure and this innocent type of person, very like lovable and feminine and all that sort of stuff. So at this point, Hjalmar is doing everything he can to hold his rage back, and he says to the girl while the barman is trying to tell him, leave it be, just leave it be, and Hjalmar tells him that it's gonna be all right. I'm gonna take care of this. And he walks outside. It's pouring rain, heavy rain. It's thunder and lightning outside, as they are worshippers of the grandfather Thunder. This air of intimidation from airing from Hjalmar is in the air, and it's represented in the weather as this heavy rain pours down, and this sort of thunder is going on in the background as Hjalmar walks into that little camp where the investigation is keeping headquarters, where everybody else was, including Edmund Crawler, the sept leader, and he walks in there and confronts him. Now, he is a rank 1 Cleoth, and you are only allowed to challenge those who are at the tops 2 ranks above you. So it is completely against the rules to challenge somebody who's on the 5th rank, who's basically an elder like Edmund Crawler was. And Hjalmar didn't care. He walked to him, said his words to him that I can't specifically remember, but something fitting to the situation, something ominous, something very intimidative, something very concrete, like saying, almost like saying his final words, that this is why I'm going to kill you now, type of deal. And he grabbed Edmund Crowler by the collar and was about to throw him on the ground when Edmund Crowler blocked him and decked him in a very humiliating manner and let out a chuckle in this heavy rain and thunderstorm, and Hjalmar just lost it. He just lost the hell out of it, and he fell into a frenzy, and he just attacked Edmund Crowler, and he's just started wailing at him with the intent to kill him. And Edmund Crowler, knowing that there's no way that Hjalmar can even scratch him if he doesn't allow it, just allowed him to do his swings and avoiding all his attacks, and then, letting out this powerful punch on his knee, which crippled him on the ground, and which ultimately let his frenzy kind of blow over, and he was in the ground, defeated, humiliated, and Edmund Crowler kind of looked at him with this kind of notion of how pathetic you are, and Hjalmar collected himself in a shameless manner, just collected himself, got up with his friend, Zig's character, watching, and he just turned away and walked off. And Zig's character, Dylan, ran behind him, and, Hjalmar, that sort of stuff, in the heavy rain and thunderstorm, and Hjalmar was just saying, I'm out of here. I'm leaving this place, There's nothing for me here. I'm taking the woman and the barman with me, and I'm just getting the hell out of here. And Zig is going behind him in a desperate state, like, where would you go? You don't understand. This is the home. This is our home, and this is our pack. You can't just leave. What about me? What about us? And all this blah blah and that sort of thing. And Hjalmar just wouldn't hear any of it, and just walked off and left Dylan in the rain, who fell on his knees in desperation and just lowered his head in defeat that Hjalmar is not to be swayed. And later, the pack leader of the werewolf that was murdered came into the scene and made the assumption that Hjalmar was the murderer, and immediately went to challenge him, and all sorts of things happened after that. They had a duel, and after the death of Hjalmar defeating that pack leader, that Fianna, a Get of Fenris killing a Fianna, and that Fianna blood spilling on the Get of Fenris warhammer, the spirit inside the warhammer, this Fenris spirit was so pleased and gratified with getting Fianna blood spilled with his force that he revealed who was his previous owner, and that sort of thing. But the tension in that scene was so strong in the air you could cut it with a knife, and me describing it can't do it justice. It's probably the best single scene that I've ever ran as the GM, and I'm just really proud of that, and that's definitely my answer to this question. And yeah, there you go.
It's no secret that you love drinking in the limelight. I mean, your name is Hammered Shitsteak. It's to be expected. Now let's be clear, I'm not trying to create controversy here, but this has sparked some curiosity on my part. Have you ever drank when you played a role-playing game? And if so, how did it affect your playstyle and those around you? Or do you outrightly refuse to drink when you play?
I'll drink a beer, a single beer, or at the tops 2 beers when I game. But that doesn't mean I haven't done it. When I started role-playing, I didn't do these long-ass campaigns with drama and serious tones and whatnot. the first campaigns I ever played and ever ran were these one-shots that were totally like outrageous and full of comedy and this impulsive stuff of just doing whatever feels like awesome and cool, and everybody was like, those games lasted like 2 or 3 hours at the tops, and you know, they were always something silly, like taking place in an Arctic village where that's getting invaded by giant cockroaches, and the player characters, you know, need to come up with a plan to rescue themselves and all that. And there's always going to be some cameos of characters from pop culture and that sort of stuff. I didn't want to say no to one player who had Man-at-Arms as one of his allies in the character sheet. He just wrote it down, so I was like, fuck! Man-at-Arms arrives! He went to Man-at-Arms when his arm got blown off and he got a cybernetic arm and all that sort of stuff. You know, it was all in good fun. And, you know, I just, one night we were drinking, and we were, you know, drinking vodka and beers, and we were really getting smashed. And one of my friends just pulled out a book and said, no, that's not what he said. Translated, that meant that let's play a role-playing game. And I was like, you know, well, sure, what the hell? And the players made characters that were just themselves, and I decided, well, if they're gonna play themselves, I'm just gonna put this into this home city where I live in, and we just started the game with them playing themselves, and they just, you know, like you would imagine, it was just fantasy fulfillment all the way. When they would walk down the streets and they would come across a female, they would do their damnness to try and lure the female into, you know, sexual acts and all that sort of stuff. They would do like crazy die rolls and come up with, you know, the sort of punchlines and one-liners and pick-up lines that a drunkard would come up with because we were drunk and that sort of thing. You know, it was. They got themselves laid in a fictional world. How sad! And then they killed a cop and stole a cop car and shot, you know, cop cars that were going after them with shotguns and all that sort of stuff. And in the end, when they just got bored after like an hour of playing, they just decided that okay, they're gonna just stand across each other and just take turns to. Bah, battery died out. That means I gotta crack open another beer. Ah, yeah. So where did I leave off? Yeah. So when the players got totally bored after an hour, they just basically stood right beside one another and just pulled out stilettos and started stabbing each other one by one, you know, stab by stab, taking turns, and just throwing the dice and seeing who would die first. Just and that sort of stupid-ass thing. And, yeah, in the end, it was pretty much that the last guy to get the stab at the other who would get killed, you know, they were already incapacitated. They were just laying on the ground like, sticking the knife into the other guy and that sort of thing. So yeah, I have role-played drunk, I mean, totally like drunk, not just after like 4 beers or something, like, you know, totally drunk, and it's just dumb. There's no like essence to the game. There's no structure. There's no coherency. Nothing. It's totally an incoherent mess of just doing what's fun and just laughing out loud all the fucking time. So, you know, it's not a skill I'm kind of, you know, good at or trying to develop or anything like that. So yeah, let's go to the next question.
The cinema is usually one of the primary venues gamers find inspiration from aside from literature. We all love to sit and eat popcorn and lose ourselves in that venue's experience. I personally enjoy your taste in cinema and find the 30-day movie challenge to be fantastic, and it has inspired this question. What classic movie monster or genre can fit into the world of darkness that has yet to be introduced or properly developed to your taste thus far?
Now, this creature that I'm thinking of, I'm not so sure how I could fit it into the world of darkness in a good way. Though it might fit somewhere within the Fae kind of setting, and even though I'm not really all that familiar with the Fae, I know kind of the outlining stuff from it. This is an interesting question, because, this creature is something I've always been kind of... that has always intrigued me. It's always like, I can't believe this has never gone off to anything more awesome and awe-inspiring and great than what it is. And that is... Bigfoot! Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the ape man who roams the woods in North America. Yeah, I can't imagine this purebred, purely American creature has not become anything more than a punchline or a comic relief or anything like that compared to something like vampires and werewolves and all sorts of magical creatures or anything like that. The Sasquatch, I guess it's because there are real people who are like into cryptozoology and who really believe that they are able to find the real Bigfoot and all that sort of stuff, and who look at like videotapes and see like somebody in a monkey costume and they're like, oh, he's waving his arms wrong, because if this was an ape it wouldn't wave its arms like that. Who says it's a fucking ape? Nobody's really seen that. It doesn't really exist and all that sort of stuff, and people are already building this criteria. Oh, there's this monkey creature in the woods, but it can't be the Bigfoot because it's not swinging its arms right. Like, it's just that... I guess because it's kind of this, it's not really a monster like vampires and werewolves. Werewolves, they will snatch your children and eat them up, and if you go to the woods, it's very dangerous, and you better, if your loved ones don't get a proper burial, they may come back from the dead and lock your door at night, so no dangerous people walk the night, creep in and suck your blood or something like that. Those are legit monsters, werewolves and monsters and vampires and all that sort of stuff. I think the Bigfoot is more just this interesting little creature that lives in the wild, because I guess the people who are kind of looking for Bigfoot aren't expecting it to like attack them and tear their limbs off. But then again, if you look at like gorillas or something, even though people feel sometimes, researchers feel comfortable approaching them and all that, they still can rip you limb from limb, and they're just sitting there giving you these warning signs, these kind of growls and coughs and grunts, and that's cool. I really dig apes. Even though everybody hates the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes remake, I really love what the apes look like in that. And somebody like Michael Clark Duncan being the big-ass gorilla. Man, that was so awesome. And, imagining something like a Bigfoot in that sort of dark, World of Darkness context, I can't really imagine it being something like player characters playing like Bigfoots, but I guess it would be like something that you could somehow incorporate somewhere. I don't know how, but I just know it's something that I would like to see done in an awesome way. I think Bigfoots are very underrated. I think Yetis get a lot more respect as these fierce creatures. In Empire Strikes Back, there's basically a Yeti. It's not called a Yeti, but basically a Yeti, tearing flesh from bone and about to cut Luke Skywalker down when he gets his arm cut off and all that sort of stuff. That Yeti is a badass and a cool monster, but, a Bigfoot is just this sitcom character kind of, So yeah, that's my answer. Bigfoot.
We share very similar tastes in music. I love a wide variety of genres such as yourself, and definitely enjoy the In Case You Like series of videos you've published. With that in mind, what are some of the genres of music you have yet to cover and enjoy listening to? Can you name some artists or give us a sample of some of their work? And conversely, what genres of music do you have a distaste for?
That was a big one. Music, music, music. This food and beer is music to my ears. Food for my soul, like music is. Okay. I'm glad you enjoy my recommendations of music, and you know, that's what I'm looking for. You know, there's a lot of people who I have no idea what kind of music they like, and you know, when I you know, find new music, I'm always like excited, like, oh, this is such a good song or something like that. And when somebody's really like into that you know, usually kind of comes over, like if somebody's really into some song, and I would be kind of, okay, it's an okay song if I would hear it by myself, but when there's somebody like, oh, this is my favorite, and that sort of thing, you know, you really get into it. And every time I've done those kind of In Case You Like some genre of music, and I hold up a CD, those are always CDs I've just purchased that day or the day before. So that's basically why I haven't been doing them lately, because I haven't been buying CDs all that much. But of course I could just pick out some from my shelf that I could just recommend. In case you like death metal, I recommend 6 Feet Under. I really like 6 Feet Under, and I really like Chris Barnes, the vocalist. And they have this kind of very light-hearted attitude when it comes to, like, you can clearly see it in their music videos. And I'm gonna link all the music I'm pimping here, and also I'm gonna link all the videos I talked about in the first question into the description box. So check the description box. I really like this death metal. It's very basic, very like jamming riffs. I really like it, and the lyrics are more hilarious than anything serious, and I just really like the sound of this, and I just really like to listen to this to get into the mood of creating, like, drawing monsters or coming up with werewolf stuff, because I like to think that the Krinos form werewolves are like these kind of, you know, monstrous sounds and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I really like this. This CD is True Carnage, and yeah, it's the first 6 Feet Under CD I ever got, and I like some of the songs on this. And in case you like Portishead, you know, it's hard to come up with a genre, because Portishead sometimes gets like put into under the umbrella of trip hop, and I don't really think it fits all of their stuff. You know, trip hop, you know, I really like it, like Massive Attack, Switchblade Symphony, and all those kind of type of bands. I really like Portishead. Some of their CDs are more trip hop than others, but this is, I would say it's kind of progressive, experimental type of music, and I really like that. I really like their sound. I think it's very original and very like it has this very like you really like to lay down on a bed or outside in the summer, and you have like headphones on and just, you know, dwell in your thoughts and listen to some Portishead. I really like them. Then, if you like some melodic death metal, there's Winter Sun. And Winter Sun is something you know, this is like pure werewolf inspiration material. You know, this is perfect for something that at the same time inspires something epic, and at the same time inspires something mysterious, and something that where somebody is, you know, wielding these spirit weapons and all this sort of stuff. I just really like them. I like a lot of other melodic death metal bands too, like Children of Bodom, like Deadlock, and all those sorts of bands. But Winter Sun, I really like the theme, and the drummer is the fucking shit. The drummer of Winter Sun is the fucking shit. It's the same drummer as in Rotten Sound, and you know, he's won many awards, and he's like the most well-known member of this band, and he's in many bands, you know. And you know, check this shit out. You know, it's just great. And finally, if in case you're into Tom Waits, same as with the Portishead, you know, it's really hard to come up with a genre. I guess experimental rock would fit. You know, Tom Waits has a lot of stuff in his past where he's shifted kind of from genre to genre, from jazz and blues into this more experimental kind of weird stuff where he's just banging like pots and pans and empty drums and like these oil drums and that sort of stuff. And I really like the way he uses his voice with this. You know, many a times when I've gone to work and there's a stereo there, and the guy who's been at the shift before me has been listening to some, you know, radio or some, you know, classic rock or something like that. Then I come there and put it on my music, and there's like Tom Waits going, "God's away, God's away, God's away on business, business," and that sort of stuff. You know, it's sometimes I get some specific type of looks, but you know, it's great fun. And I especially like Blood Money and the other CD. I really like Alice, and they're both CDs that weren't really made to be like these standalone albums. They were soundtracks for these performed theater plays, and Alice was a mixture of this artist's biopic and the Alice in Wonderland story, and Blood Money is basically a soundtrack for Wojciech. And I really like that, and I really like that I can imagine Wojciech when I'm listening to Tom Waits, because as it happens, not only is one of my favorite musical artists doing the music for Wojciech, at the same time, my favorite, you know, actor is portraying Wojciech in a movie that he did. Klaus Kinski, of course, did with Werner Herzog. So, you know, I just love the imagery, and I really love the album. And like I said, I'm gonna link everything into the description box, so check that out. A genre that I really don't like, that's really a hard one, because I don't like to judge an entire genre based on a couple of songs, because that's mostly when I don't like a genre. I've heard only like 5 songs or something at the max. But if I would say something like, if somebody would hold up like oh, there's 3 CDs, which one do you want to listen? And if like 2 of those CDs are like, one is R&B and one is metalcore, I'm like, whatever the third one is, please. You know, I'm sorry if somebody really likes R&B, especially like the more modern, like in the mid and early 2000s. It seemed like there was R&B everywhere. Whenever I would turn on a TV channel that's, you know, emphasizes on music, it's always like these young hunky these black dudes rubbing their abs and like, "Oh yeah, girl, yeah, girl, you're fine." And I was like, oh, fuck, man. And, you know, metalcore is like, I like some of it, but, you know, it's, you know, very pick and choose. You know, I really don't like the image of that kind of scene and those kind of metal stars, and it's just not my bag. Sorry if you really like those, but, you know, that's what I have to say on that. You know, I would have a couple of more artists that I don't have CDs with me. I'm listening to a lot of Ice Cube now. I'm gonna link Ice Cube as well. He's my favorite gangster rapper, and I've been really listening a lot to his I Am the West, you know, his album, which I think is still his latest album, and he has a lot of great tracks with really great beats. And I'm not normally a really big a rap fan, but Ice Cube makes very good lyrics, very good beats, and his lyrics are not only like with good flow and good rhymes, but they also have like depth, they also have a message, and they also always have like some sort of social commentary that I really like. And I just really like his voice and the way he raps. So yeah, as Cube, and also as a kid I was and as a teen I was a huge fan of the Friday movies, especially the first and second. You know, I really like that stuff. So yeah, here's to you. There's the 5 questions. Everybody go check out Andre C. Martinez. He's the man.